Okay, get ready for this. What if God literally left his signature in the very first sentence of the Bible? I mean, a real signature. We're about to explore this mysterious, untranslated word that some people are convinced is exactly that, a personal mark from the Creator himself.
You know this line, right? It's probably one of the most famous sentences ever written. But this is the English version. In the original Hebrew, there's a whole other layer, hiding in plain sight, that most of us have totally missed.
So what if a single, tiny, two-letter word got left on the cutting room floor on the journey from Hebrew to English? A word that might just change how we look at, well, everything that comes after. Here it is, Genesis 1:1 in the original Hebrew. See that small highlighted word right in the middle? It's pronounced et. It's made of two letters, Aleph and Tav. And here's the crazy part. It has no direct translation in English. You can actually take it out, and the sentence pretty much means the same thing. So why is it even there?
Well, linguistically, it's called a direct object pointer. Sounds technical, I know, but stick with me. Ancient Hebrew didn't have punctuation like we do, no commas, no periods, so this little word was super important. It connects the verb, created, directly to the object, the heavens. Think of it like a comma in English. You know, the classic example, right? Let's eat, Grandma, is an invitation to dinner. Let's eat, Grandma, well, that's a horror movie. That one little piece of punctuation changes everything. And that's kind of what the Aleph Tav does. It directs the whole meaning.
Okay, so it's a piece of grammar. Got it. But what if there's more to the story? What if the letters themselves, Aleph and Tav, the first and the last letters of the Hebrew alphabet, are sending their own symbolic message? To figure this out, we need to put on our linguistic detective hats and go way back to the very origins of these ancient letters. So let's start with Aleph. Its journey actually started as an Egyptian hieroglyph of an ox head. Over time, it got simpler and more stylized. And here's a cool part. If you look at that Paleo-Hebrew version and just kind of turn it on its side, you can totally see the Greek letter alpha and our modern letter A. It's been with us this whole time.
So that original picture, the ox, was a powerful symbol of strength, of leadership. And so the letter Aleph, the very first letter, came to represent strength, the leader, the number one. In Jewish mysticism, it even represents the absolute oneness of God.
All right, now let's look at Tav, the last letter. Its origin is even simpler. It was just two cross sticks, a mark. It evolved from a simple X or a cross into the letter we recognize in Hebrew today.
And this ties directly into what it meant. The Tav was literally a person's mark. For thousands of years, people who couldn't write would sign contracts with an X. That was their Tav. It was their personal mark, their sign, their binding signature on a covenant. So let's put these two pieces of the puzzle together. Aleph, the leader. Tav, the mark or the signature. If you combine them, the Aleph Tav in Genesis 1:1 isn't just grammar anymore. It could be read as the leader's mark. It's like God's signature, placed right there at the beginning of all creation. Now that is a huge idea, right? But the story doesn't stop in the Old Testament. Let's jump forward and see how this idea of a divine signature just explodes with meaning in the New Testament.
Just listen to the beginning of John's Gospel. It's a direct echo of Genesis. When John says all things came to be through him, the Word, some argue he's making a profound connection. Remember how the Aleph Tav is the grammatical tool through which creating is connected to the heavens and the earth? John seems to be identifying a person, Jesus, with that exact creative signature.
And the connection gets even more direct. In the book of Revelation, Jesus says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega." Now think about this. The author of Revelation was Jewish. He thought in Hebrew. The Greek Alpha and Omega are just the first and last letters of their alphabet, just like Aleph and Tav are for Hebrew. So any Jewish reader hearing this would immediately understand the meaning behind it. I am the Aleph and the Tav.
Okay, this all leads to a really important question. A signature makes a contract legally binding. So why on earth would God, the creator of everything, need to sign a contract? What could he possibly be promising?
The answer, according to this line of thought, is found in a really dramatic and frankly kind of weird story from Genesis 15, an ancient life-or-death ritual called a blood covenant between God and a man named Abram.
The scene is just wild. God has promised Abram land and a huge family, and Abram basically says, "How can I know you'll really do this?" And God's answer is this strange ceremony with a smoking firepot and a flaming torch that passes between the carcasses of sacrificed animals. In the ancient world, you have to understand, this was the most serious contract you could make.
Both parties would walk down a path of blood between these animal halves. And doing that was like taking a self-imposed curse. You were basically saying, if I break my end of this deal, may I be torn apart just like these animals. This was a promise sealed with the penalty of death.
But here's where the story takes a mind-blowing turn. In a normal blood covenant, both people walk that path. They share the risk. But in Genesis 15, God puts Abram into a deep sleep. He's just a witness. He doesn't take a single step. Only God, represented by that fire and torch, walks the path alone. Do you see what that means? God takes on the entire burden, all the risk, and the entire penalty for breaking the promise, which is death. He takes it all on himself. It's completely one-sided.
So God makes this incredible, one-sided promise, guaranteeing it with his own life. And that just sets the stage for the ultimate finale of this whole story.
And here's the problem. Down the line, Abraham's descendants, humanity, they break their end of the deal. They fail. But they hadn't walked the path. God had. So when the contract was broken, who was legally on the hook to pay the price? God himself.
And this brings us right back to that signature. The argument is that God paid that penalty by affixing his own signature, his mark, the Tav, the sign of the cross, the very symbol that kicked off our whole investigation. So let's wrap this all up. That tiny, untranslated word in the first verse of the Bible, the Aleph Tav, is seen as the signature of the leader. It's the sign of a covenant made at the dawn of time, a promise that God bound himself to keep, and a debt that he ultimately paid with his own mark.
It's a pretty incredible thread, right? Tying together grammar, history, and theology in a way you'd never expect. And it really makes you wonder, what other profound secrets are still out there, just waiting for us, hidden in plain sight?